Welcome to the shout out. My name is acelewy. Let's get into this build video real fast. This one right here is going to be more or less like a vibe of how to get into, I guess, an endgame setup for MagDKs in general. But this is also just a setup that's very, very easy and simple because we are running two craftable sets. These sets are pretty safe and easy, while at the same time have a lot of damage potential. We're then also running a mythic, a monster set, and then we're running a one-piece trainee slash druid. It really doesn't matter which one you put on, it's just a matter of which one that you wanted at the time. So with that being said, this video is very, very simple and easy. I'm not going to go over every single intricate detail that you can talk about when it comes to the DK and his passives and the class passives and the weapon passives and all that. I'm not going to go over that, mostly because it's really not needed for this video. It can really extend out the video really, really long, and if you want to learn stuff about that, I will be making a series going over all the class passives, all the, weapon passives, so we can, go into details about that. With that being said, let's get into this build video. We are Breton, so this is going to give us 6% mag reduction cost, so all of our skills that cost mag is going to be reduced by 6%. Gives us some mag recovery, gives us some spell resistance that is doubled when we have the Burning, Concussed, or we get like 3k armor from that shit. We then go ahead and combo that with having additional 2k mag being implored onto us, 29k mag in our attributes, 35 into health, running the Shadow Mundus, running Witch Mother's Potent Brew, and all that jazz with Vampire Stage 3 giving us 30% damage mitigation based on our max health. That's how we're rocking when it comes to that. You already saw how the stats were when it comes to crit damage and the crit healing. It's pretty solid, all things considered, seeing that we're not running any crit sets, nor are we running anything that's going to give us an increase to our crit damage. So we're doing pretty well doing that, especially running a race that doesn't give out crits. Going into our sets, you can kind of already see how they're going on the screen right now. Innate Axiom from bar, this is going to give us mag, stam, crit chance, weapon damage, and then a tooltip increase based off of our max, not max out, max resources. It's going to give us a tooltip increase based off of our class abilities. It's going to be 400 more or less when we gold it out. So with that being said, that's really, really strong. We're running a battle axe to give us more crit damage, with us running Nirnholm to get even more weapon damage from it instead of sharpened. I'll explain that in a little bit when we go over the combo. So keep that in mind. We are running Nirnholms, not sharpened, give us more weapon damage. Back bar, we're running Retro Vitality. How this is going is going to give us mag, stam, weapon damage, and then it's going to give us more mag and stam recovery based off of one or two of these little buffs that you can get from Retro Vitality. So if you activate a major resolve buff, or you activate a major debuff, like a major debuff to one of the enemies, it will give you 100 mag and stam recovery. If you go ahead and do a minor buff to yourself or a minor debuff to the enemy, it will then give you, again, like 100 something mag and stam recovery. So it caps out about like 500-ish mag and stam recovery being applied to you whenever you go to your back bar and you activate those buffs. Simple skill that you can do to activate both those buffs at the same time. Go ahead and hit Resolving Vigor, and then go ahead and hit Hardened Armor. It will proc both of those, so you get them at all times. So keep that in mind. Very, very simple thing you can do. That's really, really strong, considering that with everything else that we'll be having on, like for instance Battle Orcs, this is going to be giving us weapon damage and then also penetration based off of how much ultimate that we have. How this system works is, if you, let's just go with the maximum. If you have 500 ultimate, it's going to give you 500 weapon damage. For every one ultimate that you get, it will give you that much in terms of weapon damage. However, when it comes down to your penetration, it will times how much penetration you have by 23, meaning that you can get to a maximum of 11,500 penetration from activating your ultimate while in combat. Well, it's not even necessarily in combat, but just activate your ultimate and it will give you that much penetration, alongside giving you that much weapon damage as well. It also gives you initial 124 weapon damage as well. So you're getting a lot of weapon damage from that monster set, and a lot of pen from there. Now the pen isn't as necessary for the most part, because two reasons. One, This setup in particular is made without running any penetration, and it hits hard without it. However, because we are looking to do maximum damage with this particular setup, while also still being somewhat noob friendly, we are going ahead and doing that so that we can get that little bit of damage on him. While at the same time, the second reason why it doesn't matter is because we have corrosive. So you can kind of see how that works, and how corrosive works, just to let you know real fast. It negates people's resistances. It gives you a 100k pen, so you don't have to worry about anybody's resistances. So that's why it doesn't really matter. However, you still get the weapon damage from Balorg anyway, so it makes it valid to still run it either way. It's just a big part of the ultimate, which was the penetration, is now null and void because you already have 100k penetration. So going from 0 to 100k penetration is really, really strong. Just letting you know in case you was wondering about that. And then finally, for our mythic, we're running Death Dealer's Feet. How Death Dealer's Feet works is for every 2 seconds that we're in combat, it's going to restore, not restore, it's going to grant us 88 to mag, health, and stamina to us. It's going to increase our max resources. Now, this goes up by stacks, and this goes up to a maximum of 30 stacks. This then is going to give us a maximum of like 3k-ish mag, stam, and health. Really, really strong, all things considered. And as well, I should keep in mind that you have to be in combat for this to proc, and then when you leave combat, it will dissipate per stack every 4 seconds. So every 4 seconds, you're going to remove a stack from you. With that being said, you can go ahead and do Mark and Ring of Majesty. That is, it does hit harder. The tooltip difference is like 150. For this particular setup, it's 150. So if you're looking for tooltip increase, in terms of the maximum tooltip increase, I should say, like, so if you have 30 stacks of Death Dealer's Feet and you have Mark and Ring of Majesty on and just existing with that on fighting, the tooltip difference is 150. So yeah, not too bad, all things considered. With that being said though, I'm running Death Dealer's Feet because I personally want to have an increase to my max resources in general. Even though I'm running Wretched Vitality and I have Witch Moon's Prone Group giving me mag and stam recovery, I still activate my skills a lot, and as you can see, as I'm running through and just killing a lot of people, I'm not really worried about my resources that much. But even so, when I do want to have my resources, when I am fighting really good players, not having undaunted passives for my particular setup and stacking into a lot of damage so that I can hit really, really hard on people instead of necessarily doing sustained fights, yeah, I'm definitely going to be needing to have as much resources as possible. So me not having that 6% increase to my max mag, stamina, and health is affecting the build. But if you get Markin and you have the on-downs and passives, by all means, you can go ahead and sustain on this build very, very easy. Even with Death Dealer's Feet, it is easy to sustain on it. It's just a matter of like, do you really want to sit down and activate and make sure you have all your sustain up at all times? Because when you're just getting a lot of kills, you're not really worried about like, oh, let me keep up every single one of these skills. Let me make sure I'm timing all this stuff very properly. Now I'm just here to get as much kills as possible. I'm just trying to push in and get as much for this video as possible, make it look as impressive as possible. So just keep that in mind. So if you're having a sustained issue, one, it may be a little new to you on DK. 2, I highly suggest potentially slowing down the skill activation of what you're doing. And then 3, make sure you have your buffs up and you won't have to worry about it as much, because if you up and you have the undaunted passives and you're running Death Dealer's Feet with Wretched Vitality, I mean, that's a lot of sustain on a DK. That's a lot of sustain for any class in general. You have at that point. You have plenty of ways to get back your mag, you have plenty of ways to get back your stam. You shouldn't be running out of resources too quickly. Like, it's possible that you can run out of resources. There are definitely times where there's going to be people on top of you. They're going to be constantly forcing you to activate skills and constantly immobilizing you, constantly stunning you, constantly forcing you to break free. Yeah, you can definitely run out of resources, but realistically, you shouldn't be running out of them too often. It shouldn't be a thing where you're constantly doing it, especially if you are actually paying attention to your resources and you are trying to not running out of them. Like, if you're in a position where you're fighting and it's very, very close and it's very competitive and you're trying your hardest, you're watching your timers and all that, you shouldn't run out of resources with this too. It shouldn't just it shouldn't be happening like that, especially if it's like a 1v1. You really shouldn't be running out of resources so quickly that you feel like you don't have any skills. It shouldn't be like that. With that being said, we more or less just gone over all the sets. For the traits, I prefer 5-piece in pen with 2-piece well fitted. If you don't want to do something like that, you can do 3 pieces reinforced, helmet, chest, legs, preferably heavy so you can get the most armor from it, and then go ahead and do 4-piece in pen. Reason why I'm suggesting 4-piece in pen, this gives you a lot of crit resistance, and right now, especially if you're going to be running this in battlegrounds, which I suggest, this is a battlegrounds build, same with duels, this is a duel/battleground build, you're going to need as much crit resistance as possible so that you're not taking any significant crit hits, because you don't have anything giving you any other crit resistance. There is no CP that gives you crit resistance, there is no set confirmed that people are going to be giving you that's going to be giving you crit resistance. So if you're just out and about playing with your friends and they're not giving out, you know, rallying cry, transmutation, things of that nature, yeah, you're definitely going to need to have that crit resistance so that you do not take any significant damage from crits. You just counteract a lot of the damage. Crit is additive and subtractive, by the way, so if you have, say, 50% crit resistance and you fight somebody that has the base 50% crit damage with another base, no, not another base, but they have another 50% crit damage on top of that, instead of them having 100% crit damage, they only have 50% because you had 50% crit resistance. That's why you want to have as much crit resistance as possible. And if you want to know how much crit resistance in terms of percentage that you're getting from activating, not necessarily activating, but getting on a piece of impenetrable, it is 2% more or less. So every piece of impenetrable that you put on yourself, you get 2% in pen. So you putting on 4, that's 8%. If you get 5, that's 10%, giving you just a little bit more crit resistance to keep you alive. And if you're out dueling people and you put on resilience with your CP, which, by the way, I'm not going over CP in this video because it's just not needed. This is a BG/battleground build, so it doesn't really matter. But if you was to go ahead and put on the resilience CP and to really use it, it does actually matter because now you're getting another 10% to your crit resistance. So instead of sitting at the base 20%, you're at 40% crit resistance. Pretty strong, all things considered, and if you wanted to, you can go and do 7-piece in pen. It is valid to do that nowadays because, again, you're just trying to negate as much crit damage as possible so that they have to rely on other means of hitting hard, and most people cannot stack that on most of their tunes. So again, you get to 14% for the crit resistance on top of getting the extra 10% from resilience. That's 24% with 44% crit resistance. That is pretty decent, all things considered, solo-wise. So yeah, now you know how people are doing them setups and why they're doing it. When it comes to your jewelry, have it all be weapon damage, increase glyphs, and when it comes to your traits, do 2-piece healthy, 1-piece infused, or you can do 2 pieces infused, 1 piece healthy. I suggest having at least 1 healthy so that you can get the most out of your max resources in general while you're in BGs or dueling anybody. It's better to have as much health as possible that you can push, even without all dons and passives, just walking into these battlegrounds on that 29k max health. So that is pretty decent. Once I get my dons and passives, I'm going to be pushing 30k pretty easily. You can then go ahead and do Death Dealer's Feed, like I was saying earlier, and get it up to like 35k while you're in battlegrounds. That's pretty decent. You might as well just have more of that health because there is no negatives to having it, especially considering what is the negatives in this point, there's really not anything. I say you go ahead and do it. You're not going to be losing out on damage like that, or at least not significant damage, while at the same time making it where you are a lot more survivable, a lot more tanky. So yeah, all things considered, that's how we're doing our traits. Again, the front bar is a 2-hand battle axe, that's Nerd Homes. The back bar is a Resto Staff, that's powered, that's giving us weapon damage as well through the glyph. So that's how we're doing that particular setup. Going into our skills now, I'm gonna quickly just fly by these skills so that we can get this build video over because it is starting to get a little long. Molten Whip, how this skill works is going to deal a certain amount of damage when you activate the skill. I'm gonna use the example of 10k. It isn't a 10k for me unless I fully buff myself without hitting the Molten Whip passes. I think it does get up to 11k, but more or less, we're just going to do a flat 10k because there's a percentage increase when it comes to this skill. And particularly how this works is this. If I have a 10k Molten Whip tooltip and then I activate another Ardent Flame skill, while in combat, it will then grant me 20% increase to the Molten Whip tooltip. And then on top of that, it will then give me like 75 weapon damage. This is really, really strong because you get the weapon damage from this, it stacks, and then as well you get a tooltip increase of 20%. So you're getting damage done increase from skill, but it's only for your Molten Whip. So your Molten Whip is going to be hitting harder by a percentage. And this is really strong because it stacks. You get 3 stacks, a maximum of 3 stacks with your Seething Fury, which is the Molten Whip passive from this. So if I activate an Ardent Flame skill that is a Molten Whip 3 times in a row, it will increase it up to a maximum of 60% tooltip increase. And then on top of that, it will then give me 225 weapon damage. Really, really strong, considering that we just went from a 10k basically up to a 16, 17k. You feel me? And then when you get maximum weapon damage outside of Battle Orcs, you're now looking at basically an 18k when you have CP up. Really, really strong, considering that that's not fully taking everything else that we're doing to the target. Like for instance, Engulfing Flames, making the target take another 6% increased flame damage from activating the skill, based off how much weapon damage that we have. Now, unbuffed, I have 5%. When I am buffed, it's safe to say I get that 6% increase, I get that extra 1%. So it's very, very easy to get that bonus increase. So that's going to make them take 6% more flame damage. We then go ahead and combo that with Venomous Claws. This is going to apply damage to the target. It's going to do a little bit of poison as well. It's going to proc the poison status effect from it. And every 2 seconds is going to deal this poison damage as a dot. It also then increases every time that it ticks on the target. So the first tick is going to be the weakest. The last tick is going to be the hardest hitting tick because it increases by 12% per tick. With that being said, Engulfing Flames is also a dot, but it's an AoE dot that you spit out to the target. Does an initial damage and then it's going to do some flame damage on top of that. It has a chance of proccing the Burning Sass effect as well, so this means that if you're playing your cards right, just in general, you can have up to 4 dots on the target for about 3-ish seconds. It's pretty decent, all things considered. You might as well just get as much out of it as possible, alright? Then combo that with Rally, which is a burst heal. This is also our major brutality, our major sorcery, and our minor endurance. So this is going to give us healing whenever we activate the skill based off how long it's lasted, up to a maximum of 300%. So it lasts for 20 seconds. If you leave it to go off by itself and the timer to end at 20 seconds, it will give you the maximum healing possible, while at the same time it will also take away your major brutality because it lasts for 20 seconds as well. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind. That's a skill that you want to realistically activate a second before the tooltip ends. I mean, not tooltip, the timer ends, or just as the timer ends, like it ended within a second, activate the skill so you can have it right back. So more or less, you're trying to keep it up at 100% of the time. That's the plan for it, while at the same time doing everything else that we're doing for our DK. Going into the next skill, Flames of Oblivion. This is your second spammable, but really I don't treat it like a spammable. I treat it as a secondary skill that's very, very useful, very, very versatile. It's a timed skill, so you're going to activate the skill. It's going to throw out some flame damage to the target, but then after 5 seconds, the skill lasts for 15 seconds. It's going to then throw out another orb at the enemy. It also shoots up to a maximum of 3 orbs, depending on how many people are nearby. So if there's 3 enemies nearby and they're all within range, it will throw out 3 orbs for the cost of just a 1 skill when you activate it. So keep that in mind. But it's going to be throwing out these orbs at the enemy, doing flame damage to them every 5 seconds, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So the first time you activate it, boom, you have a 15-second timer, just did some damage to them. 5 seconds later, it's going to do damage to them again. So you can kind of treat it like a dot, but it's not really a dot. It's a burst damage skill. Because it's like a burst damage skill, you can then combo that, and because it is a burst damage skill, it's going to be doing a lot more damage than say traditional dots like say Venomous Claws, which occurs every not every 0.2 seconds, but it occurs every 2 seconds. So This then gets us into our ultimate, and what I mean by this, combo can get very, very complicated when we're doing high burst. So if I'm trying to hit you as hard as I possibly can, here's one burst combo that I can do. I can go ahead and do engulfing flames, light attack into a venomous claw, light attack into flames of oblivion. I'm going to wait 2 seconds, hit, say, I don't know, skills on my back bar, you know, do a go with that. There's some skills on the back bar that we can be talking about later, but right now you're going to activate those skills on your back bar, swap to your front bar. You're going to have roughly a second and a half left on your timer before it throws out another flames of oblivion, because it's almost been 5 seconds. You're going to leap the target and do molten whip. So you have 3 stacks that you need. You already have the flames of oblivion on them. You're going to have your other buff coming in from your back bar skills and all that, and then you leap the target. You're going to get a damage shield from this. You have a passive that's going to restore you mag, stam, and health, so you're getting heals from doing this. You're going to do a lot of burst from this. It's going to proc your battle lord, so depending on how much ultimate that you have, you're going to get a lot of pen and weapon damage from this, allowing you to hit even harder, because beforehand we was already able to hit 10k whips on people that you saw previously in the video. So if we was able to hit 10k whips without any penetration, considering that we're now about to get up to a maximum of 11k pen, it's safe to say that we're about to be hitting even harder. While all at the same time, your Flames of Oblivion is now about to go off because you've timed it out perfectly. So you get to activate technically 3 skills for the cost of 1. And once we get into our back bar skills and how the burst damage is and all that, how much damage we're doing. So before we even talk about anything going on right there, let's just do like a little average analysis on what type of damage you should be expecting when you're doing this type of damage. I'm going to go on a limb and say that the dots that I'm going to calculate do not crit. They're just not going to crit. So your engulfing flames, let's just say it's hitting 500 on the target, and then your venomous claw, let's just say it did a 1k on the target. Alright, nothing too crazy. So a 1k and a 5k, that's a 1.5. Nothing major. Right beforehand, when we do our combo, the last thing that we did was a light attack flames. Well, not even light attack, yeah, light attack flames. We then swap to our back bar, and we'll discuss these 2 skills real fast. We're then going to do a light attack on our back bar, and because we have a weapon damage cliff, this is going to give us even more weapon damage. We're then going to activate Chains of Devastation, which is going to give us Major Expedition. Major Berserk is going to pull us to the target, and then as well, it's going to give us a Seething Fury stack. So if we wasn't already at the max, which we was, we definitely now are, and it does reset the timer on that. It does last for 14 seconds, so keep that in mind. We then go ahead and combo that for the Chains of Devastation, hit Shattering Rocks. We go to our front bar, and now we're looking at, again, roughly 2 to 1.5 seconds left before its flames is about to go off. So we just did a little bit of damage from chains. We did not any damage yet from Shattering Rocks. Shattering Rocks just flame damage, and it does heal you when the target finally breaks free, and or they just let the timer run out for the skill. So by the time they let either of those go off, now on our front bar, we're going to leap the target. By us leaping, the target is going to do damage. Let's just say the leap crits is going to do roughly a 10k. So average right now is a 10k. Alright. Say as the leap was going off, Venom's Claw hits and Engulfing Flames hit. And let's just say it's still that base damage that we was talking about earlier. It was 1.5. We're not going to increase Venomous Claws in this case. Let's just say it was a 1.5 tick. That means that in that 1 second, you just did 1,000 damage plus 10k. It's not crazy to assume that you're basically doing 11k damage to the target. Now, Flames of Oblivion has about half a second left, more or less, in this scenario. So just as that's going off and you've done the leap, let's just say the target now finally breaks free. But as they're breaking free, they get hit with the Molten Whip. You can also combo this at any point with a light attack. So keep that in mind. So this damage is going to be getting increased very, very quickly. I'm just going to explain this without any light attacks in between. So you break free, shutting rocks, because we're now on our front bar, is going to be doing more damage, because it does that when you're on your front bar. All your skills, if it's timed or anything, and you go front bar, back bar, it would do a different amount of damage based off of what's on there, and how much weapon damage done, yada yada. With that being said, it's going to do, let's just say a 3k to the target. You got a 3k hit on the target, nothing too crazy. But then your Molten Whip, let's say it does not crit, it's going to do basically a 6k. So 6 plus 3, that's a 9k. So we just did 11k damage to the target, then a 9k, that's a 20k hit. You just did more or less 20k damage to the target, and that's pretty decent, but that's not even close to 30k. So unless the target was already underneath 10k health, you're not always going to be able to finish them off. But this is where things get pretty tricky, because we can then include light attacks in here. And then light attacks, because I have a flame damage glyph, it's going to also do some flame damage on top of that. And remember that Chains of Devastation is a damage done increase, comboed that with engulfing flames, making them take more damage from flame in general. So us doing the light attacks in between, so remember Chains of Devastation did light attack, right? The Flames of Oblivion did initial damage at the beginning, but I didn't calculate that damage. So if you calculate that initial Flames of Oblivion hit, let's just say it was a 5k, right? We had the 5k from there, swap bars, light attacked into chain, that's going to do more or less like 3k-ish damage. So you just took about 8k-ish, something like that damage. Let's just say you have hots on you and it's healing for like 2k, right? You're more or less just going to negate some of that damage, so let's just say it's around 6k at this point for your for how much damage you still actually took in this regard. We do the Shattering Rocks, it's not going to do any damage, so say another 2k hits you from Resolving Vigor, right? Alright, now it's only 4k damage that you've taken from us, and say you have full health, right? So you're only missing 4k health. We then go ahead and have the dot hit you at this point, and it's the 1.5, right? The 1.5 gets you back down to that, now you're at 25k health. We then go ahead and go to our front bar, light attack into a leap. So the leap's going to go ahead and hit you. The light attack's going to go ahead and hit you. Light attacks can easily hit for about a 1k all the way up to even potentially a 3k if it crits. Let's just say it doesn't crit. Let's just say it's something very calm. There's a 1k light attack. The flames glyph from the light attack is going to also hit as well. So let's just say it's another 1k. That's 2k on top of that. And we just said that the leap was a 10k. Alright, so you see how quickly that damage is already stacked up? You was at 25k health. Now we just lowered it by 2k from this regard. Now you're at 23. Then we hit you for a 10k. Now you're at 13k health. And then the Flames of Oblivion is going to go off as we hit you with this Molten Whip. Let's just say the Molten Whip again was just a 5k in this regard. It didn't crit. And then the Flames of Oblivion, let's say it did crit. That's like a 5-6k. So you took 11k damage right there, alongside everything else that you were just taking. And then remember, you have dots on you, so now you more or less just lost all your health. So unless you was at 100% full health in this regard, where we have really strained dots that aren't ticking you when they're supposed to be ticking you properly, yeah, you technically lived, but realistically at that point you've already died. The Venomous Claw is going to be constantly hitting you. The Engulfing Flames damage is going to be constantly hitting you. So that's how you can quickly, within about 3-ish seconds, land about 30k damage to the target and just finish them off. That's how DKs do their combo, and that's how we do our particular combo as well for our damage. Now, something a little bit similar, this is just without leap. All you need to do on your leap is hit them with Engulfing Flames, hit them with Venomous Claw, activate your Flames of Oblivion, swap to your back bar, Chance of Devastation, hit them with Corrosive, then activate your ultimate Corrosive, then hit Shattering Rocks. The reason why you do this is because they're going to see that you're close. They see that you're trying to attack them, but you haven't stunned them. You activate the ultimate, they may realize, oh shit, I need to get away from you. Before you let them do anything like that, you go ahead and stun them, swap to front bar, and Molten Whip. Now my Molten Whips, let's just say in this case, it does crit. I've been able to hit 15k Molten Whips with people on that. So if I hit a 15k Molten Whip on you, and the rock goes off and it doesn't crit, that definitely could be hitting for like a 5k at that point, because I have maximum penetration and I have a lot of weapon damage coming in. And then obviously I have my dots going off. And let's just say right after that, you know, I'm doing a light attack whip into you, right? So from 15k, let's go again with like 30k health. So you can really see the combo right here, so you can really understand how quick that damage has come in. You already just took the Engulfing Flames initial hit. You already just took the Venomous Claw initial hit. That's like for all the way up to 6k damage. Let's just say it's a 6k. And again, you have Resolving Vigor going on right here, right? You have this little hot coming in. So it took it back down to a 4k. And then I went ahead and swapped bars to the light attack into the Chains of Devastation, right? That's gonna do an extra, say, 3k, right? Or even, let's just say it's a 2k in this regard, right? Extra 2k, so you're back at 6k, but then Resolving Vigor's gonna hit this point, so you're back at 4k. So it's kind of negated itself. Then Shining Rocks, alright, cool. Now you're back at more or less, like, say, a 2k, whatever, right? Again, in this regard, I'm not including the dot damage in this, right? So you're only at 20k health, right? But you just got hit with the Shining Rocks. I hit the Corrosive on you. I swat to the front bar, hit you for the weep, not the leap, hit you for the Molten Whip of 15k. You just lost half your health. If you was at full health, you're not at full health no more. And then go ahead and do a light attack whip right after that, and then Shining Rocks goes off because you finally broke free. You took all that damage. So the Shining Rocks hit you for, say, a 5k. And the Molten Whip just hit you for 15k, you just took 20k damage. Then I'll light attack into the whip again. That's going to easily be able to hit you for a 6k whip. And then go ahead and fuck around with the light attack that's hitting you basically for 3k. Yeah, that's how you just die very quickly. Once you include the dots in this and all that, that's how a lot of people are dying very, very quickly whenever they get hit with these Molten Whips. Because right after the first Molten Whip hits, and they land the next Molten Whip, you're basically dead. You didn't really have an option to survive at that point. You had the hope that you could land a stun on them, or you was able to streak away, or you was able to do something where they just wouldn't be able to hit you at that point, because if they land the next Molten Whip on you, you're basically dead, because they already had the dots on you. And again, in this particular scenario, I showcased even without the dots, you went from 28k to basically like damn near 8k health, just off of that alone. And then say they timed it with the Flames of Oblivion. Oh yeah, you're definitely fucking dead at that point. That they hit you for a 7k, and if you was at 28k and we took away 20k and you got hit for a 7k, even with the little Resolving Vigor hot that you got going on that's going to be able to land in a second, it's still not going to be enough to counteract everything that was just done to you. So basically, your death sentence has been signed, you're going to die. That's how that combo works. And now I can finally explain the rest of the skills going on. I've already explained Corrosive, so I'm not going to explain that ultimate. I'm just going to explain the other 3 skills that we can end this build video here. So now you understand the combo, you understand all the bullshit that's going on with this, how you're healing yourself, how you're staying alive. Very simple. Coagulating blood. It's a tooltip based skill, while also being based off your max health as well. Or I should say your missing health. So if you have a lot of max health in general, it will give you a better heal based off of your missing health. So it will heal you for 50% of your missing health. On top of that, it will heal you for a tooltip increase. My tooltip is like a 9k unbuffed, so that's pretty decent. If you buff it up, it definitely gets to like basically a 12k. Pretty decent. Combo that with the missing health, really good burst heal. It also is one of the skills that gives you a passive increase to your healing received by 12% for just having it active. Really, really strong, and is really important for how DK survive in general, that healing received. Combo that with Resolving Vigor, that is a hot that heals for 5 well, it heals for 1 second. I'm saying this wrong. It heals every second for 5 seconds, and it also gives you your minor resolve. Hardened Armor, this is a damage shield that's like roughly like a 4k, nothing too crazy inside of PvP. But then also it gives you your major resolve. So if you're trying to stay alive without really wasting too many skills and all that, and really like put pressure on people, activate Leap, and then right afterwards go to your back bar, and say you just activating this Leap just to get somebody off you, right? Just to get your heals back and all that. You get the damage shield, you hit the Hardened Armor, it gives you another damage shield on top of that, so you have to cut through both the damage shields. And then on top of that, you make sure you hit Resolving Vigor at that point. So by the time you lose both your damage shields, you're on your front bar, you're attacking that target, you have to cut through all that damage shields, while at the same time you're healing and keeping your presence up. And in worst case scenario, if you really need a decent heal to keep on the front, keep on the front foot instead of going to your back foot and being on defensive. Activate rally at that point. That's going to give you some type of heal depending on how long it's lasted, keep you in the fight, keep you on your front bar, keep you bursting people. That's how that particular setup goes. That's how you're able to stay alive and keep the pressure on people when most other tunes cannot. So that's how the particular build is set up. That's how it runs. Again, if you really want to know how all of these things really lined up perfectly well on why we're doing it on a DK, why we're doing it with this, why we're doing it with that, this is not the video to really explain every time, or I should say this is not a type of video that I should have to explain every single time why you need to have these passives, or why these passives are good, or why this or that happens. For the most part, I've seen enough YouTube videos, and I've seen enough people that look for build videos. They know the passives more or less, and if they really don't know the passives, a lot of times you just need a video that's explaining to you why this class works, or how does it work this certain way, what skills does it use that's really common, why are these skills common, why are these skills good, why are these skills bad, what do these passives do, how do these passives combo with everything else for what you're trying to do inside PvP or PvE. You shouldn't go to a build video that is strictly explaining what the build does, because this is a build explaining to you why this one really works over, say, another DK that could exist that's also mag. So I don't want to explain everything that's going on passive wise. It's really just going over why does this build work. So that's why I'm really not explaining it too much. I've explained little things here and there, but at the end of the day, that's how the particular setup is going. With that being said, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.